Okay, Mayor, we're all set to going live. Just for the record, this meeting will be recorded. Go ahead, Mayor. Ready when you are.
All right. It is April 26th, 2021. We are getting this meeting started at 6:42 p.m. This is a duly called regular council meeting of the town of Anthony, Texas, posted in accordance with section 551.002 and 551.041 of the Open Meetings Act of the Texas Government Code. Public participation during the portion of the agenda for public comment is limited to that portion only, except that if a citizen's comments relate to a topic or subject covered under an agenda item, the citizen shall wait to speak until the agenda item comes up for discussion. At all other times during the council meeting, the audience shall not enter into discussion or debate on matters being considered by the presiding officer. Moving forward, Ms. Castillo, can we go ahead and do a quorum check, please?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Councilwoman Flores?
Here.
Thank you. Councilman Garcia?
He's gone.
Come on, here.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Chavez?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Weeks? Mayor Pro Tem Weeks?
Yeah, do you got me?
Thank you, sir.
There you go.
We have a quorum, sir.
All right. Moving on to item 4, open forum for the public limited to 2 minutes. Ms. Castillo, did you have anybody that contacted you wanting to sign up in open forum?
No, sir. Nobody signed up for the open forum for this meeting.
Okay, let the record reflect that nobody signed up for open forum. Ms. Castillo, did you pass out or email those letters from that resident? I can't hear you, ma'am.
No, sir. The letter was not sent with the packet.
Okay, no problem. Just, ladies and gentlemen, we do have a letter addressed to you guys from one of the residents here in Anthony. Just want to let you know he did not want to speak in open forum, but when you have an opportunity, Ms. Castillo will forward that email to you if you all can take a look at it and just, get informed with what the individual was sharing some concerns about. Moving on to item 5, review and action on minutes of regular town council meeting, April 12th, 2021. The floor is open for any questions or comments from council. If there is no further discussion or any discussion to take place, if we can also have a motion.
The only thing I'd like to change is on the vaccines. It says 2,000 residents received the vaccine, but they weren't all Anthony residents. So I think we need to make a note on that.
Okay. Ms. Castillo, did you take that down?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay, thank you. So then would there be a motion to table the item until the minutes get fixed?
Move the table.
Okay, I have a motion made to table by Mr. Weeks, seconded by Councilman Garcia. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Anyone opposed? Motion to table carries unanimously on reviewing the action of the minutes of regular town council meeting, April 12, 2021.
Thank you, sir. I had something to add, Mr. Weeks. If you see in the minutes, it does state before, initially there was 1,500 vaccines to be administered to Anthony, Canotillo, and Westway residents. You're stating that we should mention it again on the next sentence where it says there was a total of 2,000 vaccines distributed to residents? Or just put it on surrounding communities?
You're muted.
don't think he heard you, Norma.
Mr. Weeks?
I'm sorry, I keep, yeah, I think that would be good to say surrounding communities just to follow up, even though it says it in the sentence prior.
Perfect. Thank you, sir, for confirming. I'll add that.
Okay, sounds good. Moving on to item 6, discussion, consideration, and action on the following new business. Item 1, discussion, consideration, and action on Town of Anthony's, Texas, November 2020 estimate of $8,238.81 for County of El Paso Elections Department. Ms. Norma Castillo, please.
Sorry, guys, I was on mute. Okay, we have Ms. Lisa Weiss here from El Paso County Elections Administrator, and she's here to answer any questions. But basically, this was on the council meeting due to us, as you are aware, the May election was canceled for 2020, and we had the election in November. Having that change, there was an additional days added to the early voting, which exceeded the quote that was given by El Paso Elections, and we need to allocate additional funds to cover for the 2020 elections. Ms. Lisa Weiss, anything you would like to add?
That's correct. I'm here to answer any questions that you have. As you know, the governor moved those elections in May, so there was no option to run those in May. And once you get onto under the election code 85.001, you're under the countywide election, and that extended the early voting time. It actually extended it twice, because instead of 12 days out, it was 17 days out, and then the governor actually extended that another week. We covered most of that extra week with a grant from the pandemic. However, there were some things that we were not able to cover as the county, which would be things like our central count station, which is counting the ballots, the ballot by mail team. You guys had a lot more ballots by mail in November, obviously, than even when we were back in May. So all of those things added to the cost for the November election. And it's really nothing that, there was no really option on that, right? That's just the extension from moving to the uniform countywide. But I'm here to answer any questions if you have any.
Mr. Chavez, you have a question?
Yeah, excuse me. That was already budgeted for last year, right? And so we should be all right if we go ahead and it gets approved right now. Correct?
No, sir. So what we had budgeted for was the quote previously before the pandemic change order, which was 10,000. This was going to be, this added an additional 8,238.81.
Okay, so what happened to the one that we had approved last year?
We approved 10,052.19 for the election, but with this additional dates to vote, it increased the quote by 8,238.81, and that's what we need to allocate for.
The quote's actually a difference of 5,000.
Oh.
So the initial quote, the initial estimate was that 2,052, which is what the town of Anthony approved. Then the final bill was actually 15,777.95. So it was a difference about 5,000. You paid the initial 7,539, which was 75%. However, 5,000 of that was already in the initial, I'm sorry, 3,000 of that was already in the initial estimate. So it's about a $5,000 difference.
Thank you, Ms. Weiss. Mr. Chavez, if you see in the packet, I also added, and my apologies, it was to cover for the election publishing with the West Texas Carrier, which was the additional 2,400 for the November election.
I guess let me rephrase my question. Last year, did we not budget for the elections for last year? Before the May election got canceled,
we budgeted 10,000, Eddie, and we had to pay a 75% fee. Okay. So it was the 75 something, and then I think it's a little confusing, and Norma, tell me if I'm wrong, because we're dealing with what we budgeted last year, 25 over to this year. So now that we're getting credit for the 7,500,
Okay.
but there's still a remaining balance. And so I get what you were saying, Eddie, and the lady that was helping us too. Was it Lisa or Linda? Lisa.
Lisa.
Lisa, thank you. But yeah, so and I knew where you were going with that, Eddie. So because it's a new year, we basically, got stuck with it because it got behind. And I think this was also because the school didn't have an election. Usually they split it with us.
Correct.
Yeah, and then this last year they didn't, so we got the.
They ran unopposed. Had they been on, it would have been about half of that.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah, Son, you answered my question. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Eddie. Thanks for that was a good way to clarify it. Thank you, Eddie.
All right. Any further question from council?
I'd like to motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion made by Councilman Chavez, seconded by Councilman Weeks, to approve the additional. Here we have it down as $8,238.81 for the County of El Paso Elections Department. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion will carry 4-0. Moving on to item 2.
Thank you, Ms. Lisa Weiss.
Thank you, Ms. Weiss.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Have a great meeting.
You too. Thank you. Moving on to item 2, discussion, consideration, and action on a resolution number 2021-45-0426 by the town of Anthony, transferring the $8,238.81 from contingency line item number 6166 general fund to election expense line item number 6151 general fund, presented by Ms. Norma Castillo.
Yeah, so this is just a formality to move the funds, just like you guys approved on the top agenda item to cover the election 2020.
Motion to approve.
Motion.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously to approve the additional $8,238.81 to transfer from contingency line item 6166 in the general fund to election expense line item number 6151. All in favor? I think we did that, right? Any opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to item 3.
Sir, may I have roll call, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Mayor Pro Tem Weeks?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilman Garcia?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilman Alfaro?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilman Chavez?
Yes.
Councilwoman Flores? Councilwoman Flores?
We may have lost her.
I think she got disconnected.
Mayor and council there, again, nothing that would change the substance of the resolution, but just a few editorial revisions. If you all read the resolution, you'll see where the revisions need to be made. So with you all finished, we could take those.
Okay. We'll make sure we make those revisions, Ms. Castillo, on the actual document.
I will, sir.
Thank you. Moving on to item 3, discussion, consideration, and action on Poplar Street water line replacement project letter of recommendation of award construction bid presented by Gilbert Andujo, PE-CFM of AOCOM Engineering. Gilbert?
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Tonight I bring to you all the recommendation for the town as a continuing effort through the Texas Community Development Block Grant. Our next street reconstruction project is going to take place on Poplar Street from 6th Street to Magdalena. And based on the previous project that we had done before, we came to find out that the water line was in bad condition. So looking ahead and working on this new portion of the street improvements, we decided to replace the water line throughout the same limits for our CDBG project, which is 6th Street to Magdalena. With that being said, we did receive bids on, I believe it was Wednesday, April 8th. We received one loan bid from Cubic Water LLC. That particular bid came in at $173,648, $200,332.65. I can tell you Cubic Water to Cubic Water LLC for the water line project.
Thank you, Gilbert. The floor is open to any council members. If you have any questions, comments, if there's no discussion, questions, or further comment, if we can get a motion on to approve the item. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Sean Weeks to approve the water replacement project letter of recommendation to Gilbert.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. At this point,
Ms. Soledad Flores is having technical difficulties. I've been trying to contact her, but she'll join shortly.
okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you,
Moving
Mayor,
on.
Council.
Thank you, Gilbert. We'll see you.
Y'all have a good evening.
All right, moving on to item 4, discussion, consideration, and action on authorization for the town of Anthony to issue requests for proposals, RFPS, for administrative services, and requests for qualifications, RFQS, for professional services for the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. The CARES Act funding, with this right now for the American Rescue Plan Act, they're actually going to be awarding the town, I think, $1.1 million, right, Ms. Norm Castillo? Either to be utilized, with specific requirements for the town, or also this is a good opportunity to look at utilizing funds for the infrastructure needs. So, Ms. Castillo, if you want to go ahead and take over.
Yes, sir. We actually grant or what we could spend this grant in. You guys have any question? Ms. Oralia, would you like to add anything in reference to this grant?
Yes, thank you. This is Oralia Cardenas again with GrantWorks. I work with Jerry Carvajal. You might have visited with him on other grants. So my role is kind of to help him out and help to provide information as grants and other program information becomes available. So Mayor and Council and staff, the American Rescue Plan funding is funding that will be made available to cities and counties and also the state through the U.S. Department of Treasury. As you may know, the town of Anthony has been allocated $1,166,944.29. The way that this funding is going to be distributed, according to what we know, and it's the latest things, are not all the guidelines have been provided by the U.S. Treasury, although they are working on providing some guidelines to cities and counties. So the current information is that communities that are under 50,000 will be receiving their funds through the state and have to compete for these funds. This is something that's being made available like stimulus funding because of COVID, 30 to 60 days after the state receives the funds. We don't know what the state is going to require of communities to access these funds, whether they're going to ask you to request it through a form or online. At this time, we don't know. And please stop me if you have any questions. So right now, the American Rescue Plan guidelines are, like I said, limited on how to use these funds. There are 4 things that the Act does list on how you can use these funds. The first one is to provide aid to local businesses, households, or non. Also, the provide increased premium pay to essential workers, provide government services that may have been reduced due to reduction in revenue, or to make investments in water, sewer, or broadband infrastructure. And although we know that the list is very limited, additional guidance and information is expected. We are hopeful that the water and sewer includes storm sewer. At this point, at times, streets and drainage are not included specifically, but we're hoping that the guidance will provide for a broader use of these funds. So these funds that are going to be allocated to the town of Anthony will have to be used by December 31st of 2024. So the item before you is authorization to allow staff to go out for requests for proposals or requests for qualifications in case the city needs assistance in managing these funds. At the present time, we don't know all of the things that are going to be required of this funding. However, we know that these are federal funds and they usually come with strings, including things like environmental reviews, and the procurement requirements will apply typically because these are federal funds. We don't know at this time, for example, if the Davis-Bacon and labor standards are going to apply. Typically, those apply to federal funding. So the item before you just authorizes the staff, should you need assistance in managing these grants, to go out for requests for proposals and hire a grant administrator to help you develop the programs, making sure that the city stays in compliance or the town stays in compliance with those compliance areas they may be imposed. And then also to help the town to complete the reporting requirements either to the Treasury Department directly or through the state. And so this is my presentation, and I will be happy to answer any questions. Like I said, the guidance is limited. We expect that the Treasury is going to have a comprehensive guidance, hopefully by the first week of May. But again, that's just a Treasury goal. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from council? Any comments?
Yeah, do you know what might be the percentage as far as what they'll require for us to spend on administration?
At this time, a fee schedule, and I can't typically respond to that because this deals with hiring process. I can just tell you in general, it's usually a percentage, but at this time I can't speak to that because this is part of the hiring process or the procurement process. Typically, you know, and sometimes the federal programs will dictate how much can be used for administration.
The grant amount is what they allocate, at least with CDBG grants, as that goes. They or just 50% for water, sewer, and then the rest for allocated to other nonprofits or businesses or whatnot, right? We don't know anything about that yet. Is that correct?
That's correct. There are no guidelines that say you have to spend, if I understood your question, that you have to spend a certain amount for any of these activities. What we understand is that really this is uses of funds. You don't have to spend them. As far as we know, for every one of these, it's up to if for example, what we understand is that the town wants to use all of their funding for water and sewer or water or sewer at this time. We believe that's allowable. The city does not have to or be required to spend money on these other items. It's just what are the needs of the town, and a grant administrator can work with you to assist you in developing what your priorities are and what your needs are based on what the guidelines provide.
Okay, great, thank you.
And feedback down and we go through this process, that's something that we're going to have to do and sit down as council and brainstorm on how we're going to allocate. But one of the things that we heard that was key here when we were looking at this to begin with is the fact that they are allowing for us to, for the town. I did get with Mark, and that's over like a $6 million project. But when we're going to look at what exactly can be allocated within that funding, one of the things that has been prioritized and already discussed and something that we may present to council is knocking out that new elevated water storage tank that we might need that might cover under that. Because as you know, a lot of times we've been increasing the overall cost of the water and sewer to be able to pay back the debt and things from that. But if we get $1.2 million, depending on the percentages, you know, we may even have in capital improvements to go ahead and knock out some major expense like that involving the water infrastructure on water, you know, for long term to be able to do that. So those are some of the things that we're going to have to look at and discuss, you know, once we get a little bit further information and once we complete the process to go out for proposals for administrative services and qualifications. But I mean, this is you had a question, sir?
Yes. So my question is this, with the administrative services that any organization would provide, such as, for example, GrantWorks, will they be able to administer or will they be able to do the request for reimbursements? Because as far as I read on the act, it's you get a certain percentage and then you do a reimbursement process the way we did with the CARES Act funding. So will they be able to do that, or will they be able to develop a plan to be able to assist us? Like, let's say, for example, we have to utilize some of that funding in order to be able to go forth with a county contract for the COVID vaccinations. I know we put a stop to it because we didn't have the funds for the amount. So will they be able to do that, or will they be able to help us administer any other type of funds that we're going to the town crew, the PD, the ladies in the administration, whatever the case would be? So will they also be able to help us out with that plan, and will they do the request for reimbursements on it?
So typically a grant administration document, but typically a grant administrator helps the community with reimbursements for whatever program. Let's say, for example, there's a program that or a use that the city does not need help. Let's say you allocate a percentage of that for certain things that you don't need a grant administrator to help you with. Well, then the grant administrator is not going to charge you for things or work that they do not do. But if the services in your request for proposal ask for assistance in preparing the request for reimbursement, then yes, that would be something that a grant administrator will provide. And that's what I heard you ask. I didn't.
If, let's say, for example, you all were to win the request, and the city does go with GrantWorks as the administrator for this specific grant, I know that the state is big on e-grants when we come down to at least this types of funding. Will you all give us any recommended target areas or anything like that?
I didn't hear that part.
Would you all
that, Norma?
Go ahead, Chief.
help us do that, or do we still have to come up with those?
So this funding is a little different. It's not what you're referring to. This is not going to be a HUD administered program. So basically, it's at this point we're not seeing that they're tying, specific things to a target area. The way we understand it is that, and again, this is information that's coming through. We don't have the guidelines yet, but it appears to be pretty broad, and so at this point it doesn't. It's not tied, for example, to low and moderate income persons. That has not been imposed so far. So it's a little different from what you typically see in CDBG. It seems to be broader and based on whatever needs the city or the town has.
Okay,
But if for example, a grant administrator can help you develop your program. And what by that I mean is, let's say, for example, the town decides that it wants to help local business in this manner to local businesses, then your grant administrator, when they're hired, can help you develop program guidelines for how you want to distribute those funds. And although we are talking about grant work because we're certainly interested in working with the town, the request for proposals you will still have to go and then making a recommendation to council for approval of your grant administrator. So at this point, we do not believe that the guidelines are so specific to target areas, but more based on what are the needs of the town. And it appears that you can break down your allocations to different things that are eligible, and hopefully a broader interpretation of what's eligible. If there's a particular, although we're not hired, we can certainly try to get a question answered for you. But once the grant administrator is hired, it allows the grant administrator more flexibility to work with you on developing your program, your priorities, and your needs.
Are there further questions or comments from council? Okay, do I have a motion on the...
Mayor, I have a question, if you don't mind. Ms. Cardenas, is that who we're speaking? We're speaking
Correct.
for grant? Okay, Ms. Cardenas, I have a question. My understanding is that for the funding allocated to cities, the smaller cities, like cities the size of the town here, that the funding is going to go through the state, and any reporting is going to have to be done to the state as opposed to the Treasury Department.
At this time, we don't have those guidelines. There's of course an assumption that if the state is going to be distributing it, it may ask you to report through the state, and it's very likely that is. I mean, I would assume that the state is going to have a process to ask the town through whatever process they set up to report through the state. That's the assumption, but the guidelines are not out yet.
And if that assumption holds true, then obviously the state's going to have a streamlined process for the reporting to be done, because the state tends to facilitate things for the cities and municipalities and do a process for reporting to them.
We hope that it's streamlined, until the guidelines come out from the Treasury and until the state comes out with its plan of how available quite yet. And so hopefully those kinds of things will be identified in program guidelines.
From your experience, does the reporting for grants of the sort that come from the federal government that go through the state, from your experience, is the reporting that's required less stringent as would be required from?
Which way would be, is it typical? Well, if you are familiar with CDBG, the reporting is always, based on CDBG, for example, is a good program, but its compliance areas are tied to the funding. But whether the state is going to impose additional reporting requirements other than what the Treasury is setting up is unknown at this time.
The reason I bring this up, because obviously if the reporting that's required to the state is less than would be required to the Treasury Department, I mean, I would assume that the city may want to factor that in. Encompass less work, which I would assume would be a lesser fee paid to the grant administrator, and that should be factored into their RFQ. That's kind of why I'm bringing this up. If it's less work, then I assume it's a lesser fee.
Well, and again, that's why I mentioned that it's going to be for the request for proposals that are in compliance with the federal guidelines. And that's where you will see what the services are. I wouldn't expect, again, this is my opinion, that the state is going to require any less than what the Treasury Department is going to require, because the state will have to report. So again, you know, whatever the Treasury Department is going to require, I would assume that's what the state is going to require. But we don't know if the state is going to add anything to what the Treasury requires. But at minimum, I would expect that
If the town can factor that into their RFQ, I mean, if that's something that the town may want to do. I mean, they don't have to go strictly with a template. They can obviously, you know, tailor it.
That's correct. I mean, if the city looks at the template that's available, you know, and the city wants to change something, it's certainly an option that the town can do once you review the template and the services that are.
We'll get there once we're, you know, getting the request for qualifications and the administrative services. I'm pretty sure they're going to be identifying all those things, you know, once a little bit more information comes out.
So the services are going to be defined. Hopefully, I mean, we expect that they would be the services that are being defined in the request. Some communities, if there is a specific activity that the city wants, or the town or the county wants to do themselves, and they don't need assistance from the grant administrator for a particular piece of it, then your proposal will be.
Okay, do we have any other further questions? All right, do we have a motion on the table to issue requests for proposals for administrative services and requests for qualifications for professional services for the American Rescue Plan Act?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion made by Mr. Chavez. Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously, 5-0. Thank you very much for joining us on this meeting, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
great day. Thank you. All right. Moving on to and company certified public accountants. Mr. Peña, the floor is all yours, sir.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for letting us provide the services. I'm happy to report that we are now delivering, although it's very late, so I'll just be honest with everything. The 2018 and 2019 audit report. And what I've asked Ms. Chavez to have for you is a 5-year summary so that I can give an overall trend analysis, if you would, of how the town has done. We did just complete the report. The financial statements are reflecting the financial numbers as we were able to audit them to the best capacity we were. Just flat out, I think everybody's well aware that there were a number of problems due to transitions. If you would, and I'll just use that term, to go ahead and complete these audits and present them to you. So with that being said, will you be able to bring up the 5-year screen?
Mr. Peña, can you tell us what dates these are for? From what, you know, is it October 18 to
yes, it's for
September 19?
It's for the fiscal year ended September 30th, 2019 and September 30th, 2018.
Okay.
Okay, but what I'm going to show you, if she's able to bring it up on screen, is a 5-year. There you go. This is a 5-year history. I think it's a better analysis as opposed to just looking at 1 year. But trying to find, if you don't mind, to very clearly show the bright side of things. Although the accounting and administrative function was delayed quite a bit, the numbers are really very good, to say the least. So let me give you my analysis from a financial fiscal side. of things. First of all, we have current assets, total assets, current liabilities. And the reason I'm presenting this is your current assets basically do reflect the liquidity that the organization has. Can we pay our bills? Are we able to handle payroll and all the requirements necessary of the town? Your current assets, as reflected here, for 2019 were $2,595,000, 2018 $2,323,000, and your current liabilities were $954,000. This gives you what's called a working capital ratio of 2.7 to 1, which quite honestly is a very, very good working capital ratio. And especially if you look back on 2015, where we had $1,372,000 in current assets, but we also had $826 in current liabilities. And what it's reflecting is that although again, the timing's late, but at least the working capital and the cash position of the town has increased to a very comfortable, much, much better position. And the other point I wanted to make of the current assets is that currently of the $2.5 million you have in current assets, 2.3 of that is in cash. So you are sitting with strong liquidity in order to handle not just the day-to-day operations, but the major funding requirements, bond repayments, and such that you might have. So the town is strong. That's what I would want to know from sitting on the organization. Is the town sitting in a strong fiscal capacity? And the answer is yes. And have we strengthened over the years? And again, the answer is going to be yes. The other thing I wanted to point out, looking at your total assets, well, has the town grown? Do we have a stronger and improved or greater infrastructure? And again, the answer is going to be yes. As you can see, our total assets of the organization as of September of 2019, we're sitting at $12.4 million. Same thing as of 2018, 12.4. But look at the jump that is. It's a 1.9. $376,000 increase. Sorry, got my numbers mixed up. But we have grown a good 3% in total asset structure. And if you look at your total liabilities, we've grown in total assets by that 3%. Yet our total liabilities have actually reduced from $7,093,000 to 6.8. So again, our overall liquidity picture based on the asset position and the liability position of the town has gotten much, much better, to say the least. So all this allowed us to have a net position. The net position reflects the capital, the capacity of the city to go for 0.3 the previous year. And if you go back again to 2015, $4,954,000. In simple English, the town has grown in its net equity in your capital position by $650,000, which the town has had in this period, and yet we've been able to maintain liquidity and strong cash flow. So it's good. I was quite honestly impressed and happy to see when the numbers finally came out that we're sitting in this strong position. So that's what you look like.
Applause for all the council.
Okay.
Real good. Thank you.
Good hard work there. So this is what you look like back at the end of September of 2019. How you got there is the next half of the page. And on this too, I'm going to say see very favorable items. Your total government activity, your expenses of the town, we're sitting this period at $3.5 million, $3,050,000, I should say, $3,050,000 in total expenditures, and that's down from the previous year of $3.4 million, which is considerably good. We've been able to actually cut some of the expenditures from one year to the next in government activities. Your overall government activity in this number dropped, if you would, from a number of $2.4 million in general government costs to $1.7 million. Those numbers aren't reflected here as part of that 3.5. So what I'm saying is the reduction in cost there was due to a reduction in overhead, to say it very directly. How you handle this, your total activity revenue is sitting at 1,147,000. And as you can see, our revenue did go up by a good 200,000 over the past year. And that's a 20% increase in revenues in a 1-year period. And I did want to point out and get included in that number, overall in grants and other costs, revenues coming in the previous, in 2018, we had 950,000 come in. In 2019, you brought that up to $1.6 million, a 70% increase. And these are revenues outside of sales tax and fees for the water and sewer. So bottom line is, you all cut the cost of your general operations. You increase the services on public safety, streets, and court. You increase the revenue to pay for those through grants and other activities by $670,000. Everything going the right direction. So this allowed you to get to the next line there of total net government costs. And again, you can see that you cut your government costs, your overhead, by 575,000 from 2.4 million to 1.9 million dollars. That's a 23% reduction. Looking at the business activity, that's your water and sewer fund. This year, the business activity, this is showing the growth of the organization, went from 1,499,000 up to 1,442,000, and you cover those costs with the revenues that came in. So more growth and more increased revenues coming in to handle those expenditures, almost dollar for dollar. So with that being said, you did add $23,000 to the net position of the town in the previous year in 20. Over this 5-year period, the Water and Sewer Fund has contributed just over $700,000 to the town, which has allowed you to maintain your tax base without increasing it. So again, all of it going in the right direction. The additional revenues that have come in this year, you can see that your taxing just went up very slightly, about 65,000 over this past year. But over the 5-year period, it has gone up. The town has increased, and you've grown all the way to $2 million over this period. And that's about a 30% growth in this 5-year period. So when all the dust settled, how did the town fare out? You were able to have revenues over expenditures this year of 219,000. In 2018, another year of issues, we spent 278 over the revenues, but that was the only year that we had deficit spendings. On all the other years, as you can see, we've had positive expenditures of the 219, the 452, the 218, and the 361,000. So in my opinion, if you don't mind throwing that out, from a financial standpoint, the town has still been rather successful in handling not only its growth, but also the cash management and the capacity to handle the liquidity moving forward. So all that's I'm going to call it that's the good news. And this is my attempt to put in one page what is covered in about 25 pages of the financial statement. Are there any questions on the financial side?
Ben, when did you become mayor? Or alternate mayor until that was the end of 2018?
2017, no?
No, it hasn't been that long.
Or 18, at the end of 18. Or no, January of 18.
January of 18, okay.
Okay, if I'm allowed, let me touch on the other couple of critical or major enforcement letter. And again, I'm going to say, the first part was good side. On the downside, 28 of turmoil, if I can use that term, with previous accounting administrators, and the current accounting administrators inherited a very questionable and difficult task. And we've been working with you all over the past year in rebuilding, recreating the financial data. This is again due to the capacity of the predecessors, as well as the software system that quite honestly did not work the way it should have. So the current administration, in our report for 2018 and 19, it's indicating that we had difficulties with bank reconciliations, with grant receivables and reconciliations, with service accounts receivables, loan payables, credit cards, and court revenues. We had issues across the board in your accounting division. I'm happy to say that we finished the 2018 audit just a few months ago, and then we were able to jump in and finish the 2019 within, a much, much shorter period. So I'm optimistic that your 20-year ended, obviously about 6 months ago in September of 2020, and we anticipate of keeping the ball rolling and jumping right into 2020. I feel sorry for David and Norma. They're not over the headaches, but they controlled 2020 and they have recreated these 2 years. So I hope I'm not wrong, Norma, David, prove me right. We'll be handling 2020's audit in a much more expedient period.
Mr. Pena, because you did it over a 2-year span, there was some deficiencies on the letter. Did those deficiencies happen recently or more in like the 2018 scenario? Well,
completely in the 2018 period.
Okay, because in your letter it says 2019-001, 002, so right. I wanted to reference that these things happened in 2018. Right. So you're not seeing those same deficiencies in 2019?
Well, yes, we were still seeing them. Those are what was having to be recreated and corrected. But unfortunately, they didn't get corrected until the 2020 fiscal year. So they started being corrected, if you would, October, November, December of 2019. So we did still have those issues in the fiscal year of 2019 and in the fiscal year of 2018.
Were those issues more because of trying to update and redo the record books? Is that what it was? What I'm trying to say is, we know in 2018, we had the rollover of administration. We know that funds weren't used correctly, that funds weren't approved and things like that, but you're not seeing that anymore.
Right, correct. And the new crew had to come and rebuild. Well, when they came in 19, they had to rebuild what they had in 18 and then jump into 19.
And they weren't even starting with a good starting point because they were playing catch up and trying to figure out what the real numbers were. Okay.
Perfectly stated.
Awesome.
Okay. Any other questions then?
I do want to, if we are reaching the end of this presentation, as you guys know, when we basically flipped the house upside down, changing administration, you saw what was going on with accounting. The one thing that I really want to do, and the people that I want to acknowledge right now is Ms. Norma Castillo. She was a water clerk at the time during that edition that we have appointed her and that council has supported me in approving her for. We still constantly get a lot of help on board with us now. Mr. Pena and his office for all the hard work. But I really want to thank, our core individuals here in town for all the hard work and all the support that council has done, backing us in the policy changes, a lot of the revisions, and overall, economic decisions that we have made, for the town to be able to financially. So I want to give a shout out once again to Ms. Castillo. Excellent work, ma'am. Chief, Valerie, David, Mr. Pena for all your help. And even Mr. Weeks too, Sean Weeks, because this guy, he's got all the financial stuff. of what we've done over the past records, documentation and stuff. And he's been, really helpful too when we have our budget meetings. So, if you guys, applause to all our guys here. You guys are doing an amazing job, and I continue looking forward to working with you guys and moving town of Anthony, and being more prosperous and a brighter future, most definitely. So thank you all for your hard work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Anything to close, Mr. Peña?
No, hopefully the board will accept the audit as presented and it's officially finalized.
Thank you very much, sir. Do I have a motion on the table, or is there any further on the table for item 5?
I so move.
I have a motion made by Mr. Garcia, seconded by Councilman Chavez, to approve the letter for 2018-2019 audit from Peña Briones, McDaniel and Company Certified Bureau. Thank you, guys.
Thank you all. Take care.
Thank you, Mr. Peña.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good. Moving on to executive session, we will be ending the recording at this moment in time, so we can go into executive session, and then at that time, let us know when you're ready.
Okay, the recording has stopped. I'm going to be placing Okay, Mayor, we're live.
Okay, I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. It was inadvertently, we went into executive session and we cut without legally stating what I had to for executive session. So we're resuming live. But right now, the city council will go into a closed executive session pursuant to section 551.074 or charge against an officer or employee. The open meeting will be reconvened following the closed session, at which time action, if any, will be considered. And it is now 6:50. We are going into executive session.
It's 7:50, sir.
7:50. That's what I said.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mayor, just for the record, the meeting will resume recording.
Okay. Eight, okay. Item 8, we are reconvening into open session at 8:00 p.m. Keep in mind there was no action taken in executive session, and we will go ahead and move with item 1, discussion, consideration, and action on hiring an officer for the Anthony, Texas Police Department. Do we have a motion on the table?
A motion to approve.
Hire a police officer for the Anthony, Texas Police Department. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously, 5-0. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
All right, moving on to item 9, department reports, streets. As you guys know, we're moving forward with the water. We're getting everything done for the streets from 6th Street all the way to Magdalena. We haven't had anything else really pop up on streets. And if I am correct, Ms. Castillo, Everett's not able to join us today, right?
Oh, I left them in the lobby
Go ahead and let him back
from
in,
executive. I'm sorry. Let me get back.
please. No problem. Is he having some technical difficulties as well?
Yes, he can reconnect.
Okay.
I'm sending him the invite again. 1 second, guys. Sorry about that. I'm sorry, Mr. Jaques, I did not invite you again when we resumed the executive, but Mayor was reporting on streets, and he'll be right back. All set, Mayor.
Basically, just see that if you had anything else to add, I was telling them, Everett, about FM 1905, the project that we're moving forward with water and the street reconstruction on.
Have some. For Project FM 1905, we are removing the trees, like I said, facing it out a little bit, and they are surviving. So it's a positive thing for us. And on the parks again, we are planting those trees out there in the park, and they're doing well. We fertilized all the fields. We aerated them. We still changing some controllers that we had trouble with, but we got them, and they're working good. Parks are turning in green, even though we had to turn in green. We have a great response thanks to our team and Esteban. He's really good on the parks.
Awesome, sir. Thank you very much. Moving on to police and fire, Chief.
We've been actively very busy here in the past couple of days, even on the weekends. I mean, we have increased, Mayor can attest to it, we have increased twice-fold, especially with shots being fired up in the height areas. So I mean, we're out there. Did have a meeting with Wet and Wild. A lot of people inquiring. No major concerts scheduled for this season because he still doesn't know about COVID. They still have all these regulations that they're setting up themselves, but they're looking forward to a good season. Other than that, like I said, we're busy. We're swamped.
Hey, I know, Chief, today with those shots being fired here, like not even a few hundred feet from the house, we had everybody blowing up tannerite or something. But yesterday we had two huge explosions or whatever that I don't know what it was right back here by the area at the gun range. Any reports on that?
I know Sharaf has been working on that. I know he had identified some people that have been doing that. Again, they're using that gunpowder just to make it to make a huge noise, if you will. But also we've identified that there's also the border steel down the street that they have that compressed air, so that sometimes sounds like explosions. And the one that told me about that was actually Eber, because I was like, we started talking about it, and he was the one that said, hey, it's the pressure that comes up and et cetera. So he went into a whole detail, and then but I know that that's one of them, and the other one was when they do the scenarios at La Tuna, they do the entries and all this stuff with their entry bombs. Also, Mayor, just to let you know, Ms. Castillo informed me that she had gotten a information on live somewhere about 4th Street possibly being closed on the New Mexico side that was going to increase our traffic. So I'll touch bases with the chief tomorrow to see what the status is on that. And if so, we have to remind them that 4th Street is not a heavy street. So that means that we have to let them know that no heavy traffic over there as far as semis, et cetera, only passenger cars. But apparently there is going to be
they're going to do the baseball. Nobody's contacted us, but 4th Street's going to be a problem, and Washington, if they are looking to bring heavy truck traffic, they're going to have to probably look to route it a different way.
Right. So just she made me aware, so I'm letting you all know what she just told me, and so the citizens.
For the water and sewer, sir, I was out there in the well number 2 site. They have installed a new pump and also that new motor, sir. They're digging up to connect to the existing number 2 well, and the line's already exposed. They encountered it with our live water line there for coming from the well, but they are working over there, sir. And also, as far we were busy last week. We had a couple leaks, and one major one was the one on 4th Street, and the one due at 10 as well, sir. But we got it going, sir.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you guys for your hard work. One of the things that council that we want to let you guys know that we're kind of looking at discussing right now with the individuals that were awarded, we're gonna look to discuss a couple items with the individuals that we awarded the contract to for the water. Everett and I, and as you guys know, we've been talking a lot about that property by Ferlet where Mr. Vela had sold the property and where we have our future site for the arsenic treatment plant. One of the things we want to look at doing, and remember I mentioned that we wanted to inquire about boring under Washington TxDOT because we were having issues with securing easement from Mr. Baca and his property. We actually talked to the gentleman that's going to be doing the, at this point, we're going to continue discussions, but it was brought up about doing a possible change order to adding on since he's already, out here and, they're going to be looking at doing the work now, that we're going to look at seeing about boring under TxDOT to set up a 6-inch water line on the opposite side of the road there, right across the Colquitt Farms where the pump's at. That way we can set up a 6-inch line so we can move forward with establishing a water pressure loop there. And also, putting the things that we need to put in place now to be able to support that arsenic treatment plant if that does move forward. So that is something that we're looking at. We're talking to Mark and the engineers about it. All will possible approval if everything does look like it's lining up. Other than that, for courts, Ms. Castillo, or actually Chief.
So we got paying for the Pro Zoom for the courts system, they got with Sally and they created a YouTube channel. So by court administration rules and whatever stuff that Henry deals with at the courts and all this stuff, we have certain guidelines that they have to meet. One of those things is they have to stream it live on YouTube. So the municipal court actually got their own YouTube channel. So all the court hearings that are being counted, we did the first hybrid guilties and no contest hearings. We had just a couple of individuals that requested in person. So we actually got them there to the office, and we actually utilized the mayor's office since they're doing the voting. Everything went well, and it streamlined. I think it cut the court time by 50%. So it's working out pretty good. We're working out a couple of kinks. So when Henry is on there, when we have the not guilties, it should go a lot quicker and a lot smoother.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Chief. Moving on to finance, you guys had it from Peña and Briones. Mr. Peña, really good. I'm really happy with the way the audit report's going. I'm looking forward to see what and all our day-to-day staff, keeping on top of things and working with Peña. And we just got to keep going and keep, dotting the I's and crossing the T's here with all the documentation and everything regarding the finances. Moving on to administration. Just a reminder for everybody that is tuning into the live stream, we do have the spring cleanup that is going to be May 3rd through the 7th. We're going to be doing it daily from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. The pickup schedules were as followed, where it was May 3rd, was going to be the Anthony Heights, Torres Altos, Tuesday, May 4th, Washington through Jefferson, Wednesday, May 5th, Celeste through Magdalena, Thursday, May 6th, Magdalena through Maine, and then Friday, May 7th, any scheduled assist with the elderly that we're here in town requiring or requesting assistance. I do have some comments, Everett, from the individuals on Danny Sanchez Place and things like that, when they would be on the schedule and when their dates for pickup will be.
They'll be on Monday, sir. The ones on Danny Sanchez, that should be Desert Oaks.
Okay.
And that's going to be on Monday, as the same as Torres Altos, sir.
Okay. And, we did post up the information on what is the acceptable items. One of the things, Chief, if you can, have your officers look out for, I have heard from numerous residents, and I've actually seen it. We're getting people that are coming in and just dumping tires on random sidewalks throughout the neighborhood, even if there's not even a house there. So if you guys, or if anybody can keep an eye out or see anybody that's doing that, please report them to the authorities immediately. That way the chief and the officers can go ahead and address them and cite them if necessary.
Up a water heater.
Do you know where more than likely where the majority of
the water heater was right here behind La Feria. So.
I'm sorry, I left it there.
No, the tires, I saw them on 9th between Poplar and Tamarisk in that dark area. And then I have a lady off of Danny Sanchez and also off of 4th Street saying that they were out there dumping tires. And then a couple also in the Heights were saying that they woke up to the morning and they found a bunch of tires thrown on top of in front of their house. So, we're not picking them up. So they're kind of, concerned on what they're going to do to dispose of them. I'm not openly telling them, hey, if anything, take them to the recycle yard or whatever. We have some areas where they can take tires there because we don't want everybody starting to dump them all there, or the people that are doing this to hear this and start dumping them throughout the neighborhood. So we're just kind of, have under administration. I totally forgot. Sorry, because I did see it on the Town of Anthony page. Everybody, all the residents, just remember to vote. We want to encourage early voting, and is going to end tomorrow. Tuesday, the 27th. That's the end of early voting from Town Hall from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Okay. May 1st is election day. So make sure you guys go out and encourage the residents to go out and vote. It is very important. And that's pretty much about it right now. Like I said, we're going to talk a little bit more about setting up that 6-inch or possibly setting up that 6-inch line across Ferlet on Washington. And then, we also have an individual looking, for the fall, possibly about doing a little, I think a little dirt track, a temporary dirt track for an event that they're looking to co-host with Epic Rail Yard in El Paso. It's a motorcycle thing. But I'm still getting details. I'll have to coordinate with Henry some of the legal liabilities and questions and concerns that I might have regarding that. And then if it's something that looks, feasible or plausible, we'll move forward with the town. Because once again, we are still looking to start generating revenue. And then I also have individuals that are inquiring about setting up and starting the baseball league here in Anthony as well, and looking at seeing, rental fees and stuff for the Sparks, for the park to host the leagues and stuff. That way, we can bring in some additional revenue. Other than that, I don't have anything else to add. I open, the floor to any councilman, any of the council or the board that wants, has any questions or comments. Feel free.
Just a reminder to send us the letter from the resident that you
I
mentioned.
just,
Okay.
I just emailed it to all the council members.
Mayor, Norma, did you guys talk about the kiosk by any chance?
Oh, no, sir.
We also do have, sorry about that. I was looking at it. I was trying to get the post. We do have the kiosk here in front of Town Hall set up. So residents that are looking to set up and take care of their payments, their traffic citations, right? And also their water bills are able to utilize and use it. They were having a couple little minor hiccups. One of the things that we did identify, and it was through a resident, we were talking about the average water bills on the sewer rates. Miss Norma got with that resident and they were able to identify that there was a miscalculation on the way they created the average. Yeah, because they were looking at, and they spoke to Elisa and the guys from, what's the one that does the program? UDS.
The UDS?
They did acknowledge that it was their fault in the system, but, they forgot that we bill in arrears. So they were billing, the winter months except for December, but ideally, the one that was being factored in was December because they were counting January. And when they're receiving January sewer bill, that is the one for December. So they went ahead and made the necessary adjustments to average the appropriate months that are reflecting the winter rates. So high averages that they had, but there were still some that had high usage, possible leaks and whatnot during that time that unfortunately still saw a higher increase on their sewer. But that was something that we wanted to let you guys know that Norma pointed out, and she went ahead and took care of that with UDS. So all the average, for the sewer rates should be, correctly based on the winter months now. But other than that, that is all that I have. The next regular council meeting is scheduled at 6:30 p.m. on Monday, May 10th. At this moment in time, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second? Motion made by Councilman Chavez, seconded by Councilman Weeks. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we're going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting.